The West Grove is home to several historic black churches. These churches have served as pillars in the West Grove community during times of prosperity and times of struggle. This film helps to tell the story of the history of 9 churches through the eyes of pastors, reverends, and congregants. Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church of Miami was founded in 1991. Members of the church and some of its clergy talk about the history of Macedonia and about the church's impact in the West Grove community.
Reverend Simpson was a founding member in 1895. They went to Union Chapel, and at Union Chapel, you know, Baptist people, we are into really getting in with the spirit, you know, and we like to clap our hands and pat our feet and sing loud and joyous music. And at the chapel, you know, they had more of a Presbyterian, Episcopal manner, like, and kind of quiet music, and we wanted to have a joyous time. So they decided that instead of just staying there and not being satisfied, that they would form their own church. And then that's when those members came out and decided that they would get a church, and they would call it the 56 members, because there was 56 members that left that church to start their own church. We had some Bahamians and people from Georgia and South Carolina and everything that was at the churches during that time. And
they were blessed that they were given property, and the 56 members organized the church. And it moved from Thomas, I believe, to Charles for a better location. And from that, the church grew, and they relocated at this place in 1948. And
but before being here, there was starting after Reverend Simpson, you had Reverend Sneed, Reverend Gifford. Those were the old-fashioned ones. And then you have the Dr. James Arthur Franklin Finlayson, who was the most crowning of the pastors of this church. Then we had intermediately Jordan, and we had Cooper, and now we had a steadfast over 20 some odd years, Rudolph Daniels. Now maybe you'll talk with him later on, but he's here. So that shows you the impact about which these men have had on this particular community in the church. Under the auspices of Reverend Daniels, they began to form what they call the Alliance, where they go to different churches.
Well, I was in a restaurant on 7th Avenue in Northwest 75th Street, and in 1982, and I was sitting there, and a young man, his name was Robert Daniel, Reverend Robert Daniel, said, you know, Reverend Daniel say, you need to go down to Macedonia because they're looking for, they don't have a pastor, and they're looking for somebody just like you. And so I went home that Saturday evening. I told Sister Daniel, I said, guess where we are going? And so I was went up to Philadelphia in around about August of '82, and when I got back, then I received a call from Brother C.P. Bentley, who was, he was one of the prominent families of this church. And he asked me to come preach. So I think it was around about around September or something like that, '82, October. And I preached one sermon, and they asked for my resume. I'm sitting right over in that corner. God told me, say, if you go to Sunday school. So I came to Sunday school, and so I sit right in that corner right there. Then I got up and preached the sermon, and so they asked for my resume, that 11 o'clock service, because they had night service, so they asked for my resume. So I had to go and have my resume typed up and brought it back that and carried on from that time until April 20, 1983. And that's when they voted.
The first thing that we noticed when we came, we were without children, but there were lots of children playing in the street. So we evangelized the homes, and we got the children over here. And after getting the children here, we discovered they didn't have breakfast, and they were hungry, and they couldn't keep still to learn. So we started the breakfast program, and it's still ongoing today, the early morning breakfast for the adults take.
Maintaining a financial and economical status, getting the community involvement, holding on to its members, and then being able to serve the members, being fulfilled. That you sit at the table of contingency, and if you sup with me, I'll sup with you. A lot of times we don't have what you like to eat, but then again,
socially, our doors are open. We let people come who don't belong to the church. And when they have family member pass away, Reverend will funeralize them just like he will a member. There's no boundaries as to what he will do for the community. And at one time we gave clothes. We'd have a clothes giveaway. We still give clothes if anybody needs them. But we try to meet.
Oh, we invite people from the community to be on different programs that we have. We once had a tutorial program for every day, 5 days a week after school. We'd get the kids in and tutor them, and at the same time we would feed them, so that when they got out of the tutorial program going home, the parents wouldn't have to worry about feeding them, because most of them was working anyway. The parents wasn't home, so this was a place, a safe place. I guess when I got baptized, there were about, I guess it must have been about 12 or 13 of us. It was about 15 of us that was baptized at the same time in 1948. We were so excited because, you know, this was the new church, and we all was going to be the first ones to be baptized in it. And you know how kids are, you get really excited. So I think that that's the most excitable thing that I've had since I've been here. One of them, I say, because I got married in this church. My daughter got married in this church, and my granddaughter got baptized in this church. So, you know, as far as my part of the family, you know, it went down a little bit, and so I was a proud mother of having.
Well, the direction is rooted and grounded in the purpose of the church. And the purpose of the church is to witness to the community and evangelize the community, and also to nurture them when they come in.
St. Matthew's was founded in 1976. Antoinette Price and Pastor Leonard share the story of the congregation's efforts to raise money for the church's property.
St. Matthew's.
Well, originally, what we call the Mother Church, I was a member of Macedonia down Douglas Road. So really, St. Matthew's came out of Macedonia. And that's how this church was started, a group of us. And then with Reverend Cooper, we had our first meetings at the gym at Carver High School. And then after that, we went to Mount Nebo in South Miami. We would altar Sundays with them. In the meantime, the process was going on that they were trying to find property here in the Grove to build a church. And it went on for a few years, and we made a decision of how we was going to raise money, because most of us, we were working, but money wasn't that much, but we wanted a church. So we decided to sell dinners. So what we would do, we have our little meeting, and everything was on a donation order. we'll find out how many dinners, because we'll find out how many dinners we're gonna make up before we made them. And most of the food was donated. So we had an idea of what our profit would be. So one of our members, she worked at Jackson, so she'll get her lists on Friday. And we knew if we had 20 or 30 or 35 dinners, we knew. So we didn't have no overflow, no throwaway. And that's how that was one of them. And then we used to bake pies. Because I went to get my nails done one day, and the little Chinese guy say, "Fight, fight, fight." I say, "No, this is not fight, fight, fight. This is oven, oven, oven." But no, that's the way we did. And then this was before Reverend Leonard came in the process.
Well, St. Matthew was a little house church when I came here. And it was very indigent and had a few problems. But they called a young pastor. They had had 2 pastors previously. I'm the 3rd pastor. Reverend Cooper, Philip Cooper, was the organizing pastor. And Reverend Cleo, I believe his name is Alberg, was the 2nd pastor they called after Reverend Cooper resigned. After about a year or 2, Reverend Cleo, he resigned, and they moved to call me as their pastor. Well, I think one of the main challenges were when I first arrived at this church, they had a little house church that was, if the inspector had come, they would have condemned it. And I think the fact that we raised money, and we raised about $60,000 in a short period of time, and I wanted to build a church, and this church, and I went to 10 banks, and all 10 banks turned me down, and I owned the property. And so I prayed, and I was very distraught, and I prayed very hard, and I asked the Lord, what could I do? Just so happened to come in the mail, if you call it just so happened, was a letter from Security Trust, bond issuing company. And I wrote them a letter and asked them if they would send someone to teach me how to do a bond issue. And they did. And this church raised $180,000 in less than 7 days. And we began to build this church, broke ground and began to build this church. And we built this church right in the back of the little house church. And we didn't tear it down until we marched in this church. When we marched in this church, then we had the little house church demolished. I wish I'd have kept it out there so you could have seen it. I was teaching a Bible class in one of my buildings. I had property on Grand Avenue. I was a tailor by trade. And one of my stores, I was teaching a little Bible study there. And St. Mary called me to pastor there. And they was in the process of installing me as their pastor. And one of the members from St. Matthew came and asked me if I would be their pastor. So I told St. Mary to give me a little time to pray, and asked St. Matthew to give me a little time to pray to see if I would accept their call. So I prayed for about 30 days, and they came to St. Matthew, came every day to ask me what was the Lord saying. And after 30 days, I felt like the Lord wanted me to be at St. Matthew to pastor them. I believed that they really needed a shepherd. I think that the church is the most significant place in any community. I think that it is the center, the centrality of the community. I think everything should be built around the church for the spiritual life of the community. There's other sectors in a community, but I believe that the church should be the center of life in the community. St. Matthew have provided a light, a beacon in this community. I believe that it is known as a Bible teaching institution. I have some very strong young people. I have a second church. The church that I started with basically have all gone home to live with the Lord. and I have a new church now, younger people than I had in the first church, since I have been here almost a generation. So I've seen the church turn over.
When events, we have blood drives here, and when was it, right after Andrew, we had like a clothes and food giveaway, and that's what we do with Thanksgiving come up. We give Thanksgiving baskets, and on what is it, every other weekend, or first or second weekend, Rev and a group of young people, they evangelize in the streets, so to try to bring on more members.
Well, I believe that a church should have a mandate according to the Bible. I believe that the Bible sets a mandate for churches to carry out. I believe there are things that the church should do, and there's things that we should stay away from because we're not called to do those things. But the mandate of the Bible, I believe that is here, and it provides a center for those that is interested in and seeking the Lord, is that we have great in-depth Bible studies, teachers meeting, preparing the teachers to teach on Sunday morning. Then we have our Sunday school, which is a very vibrant Sunday school, which Antoinette Price is one of the superintendents of the Sunday school. And we have a lot of young people. I've always had a lot of children in the church, which represents new growth. I were a youth pastor before I came here. And so we have a strong discipleship program. We have strong worship service. Then we have prayer meetings, strong prayer meetings, of which tonight is our prayer meeting night. So I think we provide a full program for those that want to have a church life.
The children, because some was born since I've been here, and they're in college. Some of them have graduated. So I've seen a generation come and go, and now we got another little generation coming up. I don't know who's going to handle them, because they're something else. They're cute. Reb call them the lambs. So, but we got some lambs now. I probably won't see them graduate from college, but they're coming. They're coming.
What further things I hope to accomplish? Well, I think my dream is to have people that are spirit-filled. I believe in living a spirit-filled life. I believe that's the only way one can really live for the Lord, is live a spirit-filled life. I hope to reach so many of the young people that seems to be outcast and so desolate today, and provide a shelter for them. I'd like to see young people have employment. I think the thing after salvation that a person needs is a job. I see so many young people that are disenfranchised, that do not know how to tap into this economy, the resources that is available. And so I hope to be able to incorporate our young people in the system. I see so many don't know how to abide in the system. I think that's really the problem. The problem is not they want to do some of the things that they are doing. They just don't know how to tap into this system that is so fluent and really make a life for themselves.
Greater St. Paul was founded in 1896. Lifelong members talk about Greater St. Paul's congregation and its pastors over their 115-year history.
No, this has not always been the location of our church. Our church, in its first inception, was located on Evangelist Street. Today we call it Charles Avenue. Our church was referred to at that time as the Church on the Hill. In the early 30s, our church was formed here, or built here. We've been here now since maybe about 1935. And just before 1990,
The second church that we had was demolished in preparation for this one. So this church has been standing and has been opened as our third structure since Easter Sunday morning of 1993, shortly after Hurricane Andrew. This church supposedly had its formation after the first pastor or person who was about to organize it withdrew from a church that was known as St. Agnes. Later on, St. Agnes was supposed to have become a Baptist church, but this grew out from a group of protesters of an early church where people felt as though they were not free to worship as they please. As I think back, this church has had approximately maybe some 26 or more pastors, because pastors here are only appointed by the bishop for a year, and when they come for a full year. At the end of the year, they may or may not be appointed. If they are appointed to return, so be it. Some get a chance to stay much longer than others. And so we had a pastor whose name was Reverend Powell, who came and purchased the property for the second church on this location. So we moved from the old hill up on the hill here in 1932, and the church was completed by 1935. He came and he stayed for a number of years. In fact, one of his sons became one of our leading bishops here in the AMN church. And it was under Reverend Davis that this particular construction took place. Okay? So now, since this place has been finished, we've had let's see, we've had maybe some, after Davis, we had McKinney, and we had Harvin, and we've had our Reverend Hodge, the one who has recently come. So we've had approximately 4 or 5 pastors since this place has been completed. The church has grown tremendously in all aspects. From a small band of approximately 12 members from its earliest inception, we've got now about 400 members. The church has taken on projects wherein they have attempted to buy, build, and establish affordable homes for people within the community. Spiritually, we are a part, or we are fully associated with other churches within the community. We are part of the ecumenical group. And there's also participation with the Ministerial Alliance.
Well, we do many things for the community. We have very elaborate weddings here, and then we have funerals for people from the community who are not members of this church as a community service. We have a GED class for high school students that need to pass that test in order to finish high school. And let me see what else I have. Oh yes, we feed the homeless here 1 day a week, I believe it's on Wednesdays. And we have a shower across the street from the church for men before they have dinner.
A lot of the people that were here when I joined have passed on, but their legacy still lingers on, and I remember so vividly the all of the togetherness, the unity, the love that we shared here. And from generation to generation, it has passed down. And we're going to try and hopefully keep that trend going. Because as I said, we're a very friendly church, and our doors are always open. Well, we are growing, and I heard it stated that we purchased properties here in the Grove, and to make sure that our members, because a lot of them had to be relocated because of the development in the Grove. So we have purchased properties here at the church to make sure that low income, our members remain in the Grove, and they will have substantial housing. That's one thing I'm very proud of, that we are trying to work with the people in Coconut Grove.
Christ Episcopal Church was founded in 1901. Thelma Gibson and Dr. Simpson talk about the history of the founding of Christ Episcopal and of its prominent reverends who impacted the West Grove.
I know the members that we knew, that we've learned about, and we have those names. My grandmother was one of them, who was Catherine Anderson, Lula Reddick, E.W.F. Stirrup, and his wife Charlotte Jane Stirrup, and that's Dr. Simpson's grandparents. And Mrs. Stirrup's brother was Mr. Sawyer. It was, and then found in the home of the Clarks, Mr. Rebecca Clark, and her husband. Is it David? And you see in that book, is it David Clark? I think it's David and Rebecca Clark. The first meeting of the church was in their home, and those members were there.
My grandfather had very little education, but education was very, very important to him, and he worked very, very hard. He would work he worked for the Deering estate, Deering Brothers, for many years, and after work he would work in the pineapple fields, and he would just save his money and buy property. So most of the early settlers, most of the settlers in Coconut Grove, my grandfather sold them either the land that they have their houses on, or helped them to build their houses. He never foreclosed on any of them, and he, regardless to whether they could pay their their rent or their mortgages or anything like that. And so most of the early settlers who came here, most of them bought their land from my grandfather, because, as I said, he worked very, very hard, and he saved his money, and he most of the time he would take his wages for some property in Coconut Grove. So and he was very active in building, in laying out Charles Avenue. That's why it's crooked, because they did it on their own, so it's not a straight street, but Charles Avenue is one of the original streets. Well, I think really we've had all great ministers as far as I'm concerned, but probably my fondest memory is Father Simmons, because he was not only was he the minister, but he was my first teacher at the Episcopal school then, which was St. Albans School, which is now upon the land where Francis Tucker Elementary School is now, on that land where St. Albans School used to be. And I just remember him because, as I said, he was my first teacher, and I thought that he taught me so well.
And the first priest of color who came was Father Simmons. And of course you will get that information out of the book on Father Samuel Simmons, who came. And he had the services, and I guess was more into all the religious kind of stuff. And then he resigned in 1937, and Father Pollitt came. And Father Pollitt, everybody talked about the fact that he did more with the choir and getting the singing going and all that kind of stuff. And then Gibson came in 45, who was a younger priest who came with all these ideas about what should happen and making change take place. And he'd always said he wanted to come back home to do his ministry. And then I guess because of his interest in the community, he was asked to help with the NAACP. And that's when in 1954 he became president of NAACP. And this is when they started really fighting and getting our members and people all over to try to join NAACP to help change take place. A lot of people were afraid to join because they felt it would jeopardize their jobs, and the teachers didn't want. And so there were quite a few white people who came to those meetings and became a part of the NAACP. And the state of Florida decided to have the Johns Committee. Senator Johns was head of a committee that was supposed to investigate the NAACP to be sure that these white folk were not communists. They felt that communists had infiltrated the NAACP. And so they had the Johns Committee who investigated the NAACP. Father Gibson and Reverend Graham, who was another one of the leaders who was trying to, civil rights leaders who was trying to get change to take place. And they were found in contempt of court because the committee wanted the list of the membership, and they refused to turn over the membership list to the Johns Committee. And so they were found in contempt of court, contempt of the state of Florida, the legislative committee. And was Federal Gibson. Grimm was able to get out of it. Gibson was the one who had to take the brunt of it all, and was fined $1,200 and was supposed to spend 6 months in jail. But he fought it all the way to U.S. Supreme Court and finally got freed from, in fact, the fight started in '59. He didn't get his actual freedom until 1963. He never served any time in jail, but at least it was overturned by the Supreme Court in 1963. And so because of his involvement, naturally the membership, he kept saying to us, you've got to be able, if I go to City Hall to get something done, you've got to follow me there. I'll be the spokesperson, but I've got to have the crowd there so that you can stand up and have them know that you're behind me and that sort of thing. And so that's how a lot of us got involved with the civil rights movement and the fight for human rights for all people. And so that was Gibson's role.
Beulah Missionary Baptist Church was founded in 1954. Thelma Ferguson, the daughter of founding Pastor Ferguson, recalls memories of her father's role in the establishment of the church.
Yeah, my father founded the church. It was originally a church, it was a Methodist church, Beulah Missionary Methodist Church. And then when he came and became the pastor, he went to change the name of it to Beulah Missionary Baptist Church. But before it was a Methodist, and then he restructured rather. Well, the experience that I with him that on Sunday, he would go down to the labor camp and he would teach the migrant workers, have service with them. And because they were all like migrants from the Bahamas, where they came over to work in the fields and whatnot. And then after, for many years he did that. Then he became the pastor of the church, of Beulah Missionary Baptist Church. Well, his favorite quote to us would always be, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, and all things shall be added." And he taught us that if you seek God first and make him the utmost priority in your life, then he would do the rest, and you can achieve all things through Christ Jesus who strengthens you. And my father had a daycare next door to the church, and it was called Beulah Daycare. And we had children from the community. And that time there wasn't all the many programs where you could attend and not pay. But my father was the loving type that whether you could pay or not, if you needed assistance in care, he gave it. He opened the doors, regardless of your financial position. But that was the type of person he was. Well, there were a lot of activities, like he was affiliated with the Florida East Coast Union, Baptist Union. And he would always take us, they had the youth department, and he would always take us and wanted us to achieve, to be first in everything that they had. When they had the Bible, they would do Bible contests or different organization. He would always put us into it, enter us into it, and we would try to do the best we could to make him look good. But as we grew up, and we had at the church here, we had a dance ministry liturgical dance ministry where we ministered all over Dade County and in the Bahamas, where they went to schools on Black History in February. We went to various schools throughout Dade County and even the Bahamas. The challenge to me that we faced is trying to, through the years, that now is to try to get people more spiritually inclined. It seems like church attendance is declining. The younger generation, they're finding, a reason they don't want to go to church, or they think they can operate without the church. But eventually they find themselves coming back when they hit roadblocks or dead end. But there isn't really no obstacles. It's just I noticed a decline in the way people worship today. We try to go out and talk to the individual, go out to the street, and we post signs, and we try to minister to the young people. And because you have to at times come out the four walls of the church and go out into the community and try to reach the people.
St. James was first established in 1927. Members of the church clergy talk about the constant presence of St. James in the West Grove community and about some of the church's accomplishments.
It was first established in 1927 and re-established in 1926 because of the hurricane, demolished the church, and it was re-established again in 1974. It was established because the believers wanted to have a place of worship, so they established St. James Baptist Church for the Bahamian peoples. It was a Bahamian family. Reverend Fred R. McClendon was the pastor that I joined St. James under, and he was a great pastor. He was something like a prophesies of what's to come pastor. Reverend Alfonso Jackson, he was a great pastor of St. James. St. James is the church that he really learned to preach because we was his first church, and he was great. He filled the church to the capacity that we did not have room to set an extra chair into the sanctuary part almost every Sunday. And then he was reunited to Second Baptist in Richmond Heights.
We do have programs here that we feed the hungry and clothe them also. We offer a drug anonymous program. Oh, and we reach out.
One of the most milestones or prevalent influences that this church has had is the fact that we've been here so long here at this location, and we've provided services for the community. I myself have served as the president of the Coconut Grove Ministerial Alliance, and we believe that our presence here has made an impact on this community as far as our outreach, as far as the auxiliaries and ministries that we have here at St. James.
St. James has helped me to remember and to realize that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and that his word and his word alone will stand the test of time. And lean not to my understanding or man's understanding, but the word of God. And St. James, Reverend, our present pastor, Reverend Kenton L. Williams Sr., he instills that in us, the Word of God.
Greater Faith Temple was established in 1930. Reverend Scott speaks about the church's history and its efforts to engage the youth of the West Grove into church life.
Elder James Porter, I believe, also was Elder Randall Madison. After Elder Porter came what Elder Elijah Madison, who is really dear in the hearts of many people. It was under his administration that the church began to grow and began to take root in the community. Elder Madison was a resident of Coconut Grove during that time. One of our well-known pastors, like I told you, Pastor Elijah Madison, was a well-known pastor. And matter of fact, under his administration, there's a lot of great leaders that came out of his administration, because Elder Madison was really concerned about not only the natural but also the spiritual part of a man, building up a man. And so a lot of our great leaders, as a matter of fact, some of our pastors, our great pastors within in Miami, came under his leadership. Well, socially, we had a feeding ministry where we have feeding folks in the community. We are also politically we are making our members aware of how important it is to go out and vote. We have now that we have politicians to come in and to speak. We're making them aware of the issue that's on the ballot. That when they go out to vote, they'll know what the issue really is all about. Okay, one of the accomplishments of the church was our new building. It's a new building now. It's been renovated. We got new pews, new carpet. The inside's been renovated. We used to have a parsonage. We don't have a parsonage anymore. We have classrooms and offices now. And we have a signage outside, which let folks know that this is Greater Faith Temple. We have a paved parking lot. Now we're working on paving the other parking lot, which is across the street from us. That's one accomplishment. Another accomplishment is our youth department. We have a thriving youth department. We have dancers, we have rappers, we have mime ministry, we have we have dancers, we got young girls dancing, which is Washington Angels, and we got the Washington Special, which is the older girls dancing, and the mime ministry and the rappers and these ministries. Matter of fact, they just went out last night and performed up in another part of Florida. But they go out to different churches and schools and whatnot and minister the Word of God to them. So that's one of that's another of our accomplishments. We have a really strong youth department, and it's continued to grow. Right now we're working with the University of Miami and different programs that they have. One program is with the law school, helping the people of the community, with certain issues they may have with the law. So we are working with them, and we invite them to come in, to speak, and we invite people of the community to come in also that maybe having problems and stuff like that in that area to come in and they help them. We're working with the University of Miami with the medical school now, as far as helping the community, those who want medical services or whatnot. Those who might not be able to afford it, they can also come and so we're working on with that also. We're also getting ready to begin our daycare, and we're also working on having an after-school program where we will have students to come in and have members other body to help them in tutoring and different courses that they may have problems or struggles in.
Shady Grove was founded in 1995. Members of the church clergy and administration talk about the history of the church and about the history of purchasing their property on Grand Avenue.
It's been in existence in 1995. It wasn't a founding pastor. We had a group of people which consist of deacons, trustees, and members of the church. At that time, the pastor's church was, we didn't have a pastor at that time. The first pastor of Shady Grove Missionary Bethel was Michael Baker.
We started as we are split from another church, okay, and we started in '95 on Main Highway, Bryan, and from there we came to Baines Funeral Home. We were there about 3 months, and then we rented the place on the corner of 103, and they let us use that until David Blumenthal said he was selling this, and we made a preparation to purchase this property. And with the help of George Hernandez, the architect that did this building, he's out of the University of Miami, so he works there. Okay. He did this building, and Malcolm Wright was the one that came in to be the builder, and we put this church together. And in 2003, we had the groundbreaking ceremony right out there in front of the building with a new board, and the renovation started, and in 2004, November, we moved in here. Purpose of our church establishment is to serve the people, basically the community. That's our objection. We want to be a church with an open door. We don't like the doors to be closed. And we want not just to have church on Sundays and say come to church on Sunday, but we want to have services here daily that serve the community, like an outreach, whatever is needed. So anytime there's something needed and Shady Grove can open their doors to it, we do that. The census were here. They did all their training. Every time they trained, they came here. During that, 2010, that's it was census year. They used our building for weeks at a time, training, and we just opened the doors because that's what we feel we're here for, community. So if people ask, then you serve. That's what we're supposed to do. So that's what we are about, whatever and whenever we can serve, and whenever the doors can be open for someone out there that needs to have it to serve.
Well, our goal is to be as the best servant to the community as possible, as we can possibly be. And of course, we, as a church, we do want to be able to save the lives and meet the spiritual needs of the people. Well, I think they had an impact because of the service that we render to the community. Some of the things that we do for service, of course, on Wednesday nights, we have, Wednesday morning rather, we have a bread giveaway here. And then Wednesday night, we have the NA meetings and also program for the NA drug program. And Monday through Friday, we have the access point, South Florida access point. It is here also. And also we have the tax, from Monday through Friday, we have tax preparation.
Our ministry goal is to continue to do what we are doing, because we are truly serving the community. We have the doors open for the people that need to apply for food stamps, special assistance, housing, and then we have the other side open for people that need to apply for a job, in search of a job. It's here. We open it up for the Alcoholic Anonymous to come in, and drugs, so they can have a meeting here. And anybody else that come through those doors and they say they need something here, and we have a place or a time to put it, we will place it there.
Heart of God was founded 5 years ago. Pastor Caldwell talks about the young church's growth and great plans for the future.
From a grassroots roots church plant, oftentimes you go from place to place until you find a place that you can settle in, or you build up enough equity to purchase, enough capital to purchase a building. This particular building came to us via the Southern Baptist Convention, Shady Grove, which is the house where our church is housed here. So we have integrated with Shady Grove, and we share the building. And it is their building primarily, but we rent out this time slot. And we come together with collaborative ventures and things of that nature to be a viable force in this community. We started off at the Radisson Hotel, then it became the Crown Plaza, now it's something else, and we left there and we went to the South Miami Elks Lodge, which is right off of US 1, not too far from campus, University of Miami. And then this opportunity came our way, and we felt there would be a great opportunity for us to have a place that symbolized what we were looking for as far as a church is concerned, the feel of the church, the look of the church, and where we knew people could come to and feel like they were at church. The mission statement and the vision is to bring people to a knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ, to teach them about relationship with God, not religion by itself. Because we believe anytime you are overtly religious, you can become a legalist or judgmentalist. And so that's our goal, and to teach them how to have a working relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. Now, how that filters out is that when Jesus dealt with his life, how he dealt with his life, he was a man who combated social issues. He went to the homeless. He went to the least, the lost, the left out. And those are the things that we want to do. That we want to be able to reach out to this community and to help these in this community with some of those social ills that they're confronted with. Not just a religious paradigm, but also a relational social paradigm. And so that's what we want to do. We want to be an extension of help, of aid, of assistance, and even partnering with or integrating with Shady Grove.
I love my members, my church family. I love them all because they're always there. Anytime I can call at 2 o'clock in the morning and somebody is going to answer for me, and if it's just an ear to listen, I know I can call one of my members. Since we are so new, we're still trying to get our feet wet and make our presence known, and let everybody know that we're here and to introduce ourselves and let them know that we do have services that are available for them. Like we are looking at, right now we have a forum every month that we discuss relationships and other personal and church issues, but it's pretty good, and that might be something that would be very impacting to the community, because that gives people an outlet to let them speak of how they feel and what they need. It's a way to get to know somebody on a personal level, not just somebody that you see on Sunday. Somebody that you get to know, and if you need a shoulder or an ear, you met somebody that may be that person.
We are accomplishing the goal. It is the work is never complete. We always have to revisit the vision. We always have to tweak. We always have to come up with ideas. We have to understand that we are basically in the chess match, if you would. We are in a poker game, and we have to counteract. And there are certain things in our culture that we have to utilize. For instance, new media, as my godson talked about earlier, about the whole Facebook phenomenon, and just utilizing new media to help get the word out about who we are and what we do. And so it's an ongoing process. We're here to stay, and I believe that God has planted us here for such a time as this. It is yet to be seen what God is about to do with us in this community.